Hummingbirds taking us off the deep end like they do every week here at the CCA Workbench. Dave, what is happening?
Well, we're talking about baits and live baits especially, and live baits are undeniably effective. I mean, they're deadly. You're not fooling anything when you've got a live bait out there. I call it, if you're using live bait, you're cheating because you're not really fooling them. The thing of it is, once you get good at catching live bait, you're going to catch a lot more fish. And the bad thing about live baiting is that there's a little bit of work involved. You got to spend some time to try to find them, and then you got to take care of them, and then you got to, once you catch them, and then you got to learn how to handle them and store them properly too. Because if you can't do all three of those things, then you're not doing very well.
True that.
And there's pretty much 4 ways you can get baits. You can either catch them in a cast net, get them in a trap, or you hook and line, and buying it. And they all 4 of them have pros and cons. For a cast net, the pros are, if you learn to throw a cast net, that's a good skill to have. You've learned something that you can use forever. The bad thing about cast nets are they can injure the bait, disorient them, scales them pretty much. They don't last as long. So a lot of times if you catch them in a cast net. The good thing about a cast net though is you catch a lot usually. If you make a good throw on a bunch of them that you've chummed up, you can catch a lot of bait really quick. But again, if you catch a whole lot real quick, you got to take care of them. You got to get them to another well real quick and get those done. Now you also have traps. Now the traps, the good thing about a trap is the bait usually comes out pristine. When you pull them out of the trap, you have perfect baits. Bad thing about a trap is it takes time. You gotta take the trap out to a place, and you gotta set it down, and you gotta wait till bait gets in it. So you have to have opportunity to go fish or do something else while you're waiting to make your bait. You have to do it the night before, stuff like that. Plus you have to store traps. So those are the cons of traps. Now hook and line fishing for bait is probably one of the best as far as getting the bait fresh and perfect. You can cull through them, and you want to use like little gold hooks or sabiki rigs. Here's some of the new sabiki rigs from R&R that we're going to have in new products as well. But if you're using a hook and line to catch your bait, you're usually going to only hook them in the mouth. Hopefully you don't gut hook them. If you gut hook them, throw that bait away. If a bait hits the deck, throw it away. If it's best if you can use a de-hooker to pull the baits off of everything and never even touch them. And if you can even catch your baits 2 or 3 weeks beforehand and put them in a pen, then you're way ahead of the competition. Because a pen bait, he's been sitting in a pen, you've been feeding him for 3 weeks, he comes out of there like a machine. He's strong, he's just ready to paddle. And one that you've fed for a long time and kept in a cage with just as, not overcrowded, so that he gets a good swimming action in a nice big pen, those are the guys who usually ends up winning a lot of these sailfish tournaments and kingfish tournaments, because when you have a big, fat, strong bait, he can paddle longer and harder and with more energy than everybody else's, and that's the one that they're going to see, and that because it's going to be out there longer. You don't have to keep changing your baits back and forth. So keeping your baits, don't try to put them in cold water or hot water. Keep the temperature the same, because bait are small baits are very temperature sensitive as well. So that's another thing. And you can buy bait. The bad thing about buying bait is you never know what you're going to get.